Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to talk about enzymes, the molecules of life. So what is an enzyme? An enzyme is a protein that speeds up cellular metabolism. Life as we know it could not exist without enzymes. They reduce the amount of energy that you need to activate different chemical reactions between your biomolecules in your cells. They can help reactions up to 1 million times faster. Without enzymes, life would be at the speed of a crystal grain, extremely slowly. In all cases, enzymes facilitate these reactions without themselves becoming in any way altered. Each enzyme has a single and specific action and reaction. However, that single action could have many different health consequences to you. And often, the mechanism of an enzyme activity looks like this. Whatever the enzyme affects is called a substrate. And the enzyme engulfs the substrate and breaks it into two separate things. Important facts about enzymes. They do not have an unlimited lifespan. So your body will make enzymes and they will break down over time, and then your body has to remake them. Enzyme production and activity slows as we age. Enzymes are heat sensitive. So for example, the enzymes that you may eat in your diet can be destroyed and are destroyed by heat. Other enzyme inhibitors include improper pH, and this is throughout your entire body. If you have an acidic condition in your body, that acidic condition will inhibit enzyme reactions that need to occur for your metabolism, for example. And then in your food, there are enzyme-resistant coatings, and these exist on things like unsprouted seeds and grains. These enzyme-resistant coatings prevent that seed or grain from rotting and then allow it to sprout when conditions are optimum. Most importantly, enzymes are made of amino acids, and in order to be active, they require other cofactors, including minerals and/or vitamins. So if your diet is lacking in certain essential amino acids or in minerals and vitamins, you may not have great enzyme activity. And so this is what that looks like. An apoenzyme is the enzyme that your body creates. Maybe your DNA creates it. Almost every apoenzyme is an inactive enzyme. It doesn't actually do anything. Very few apoenzymes are active. So some apoenzymes not only need a cofactor like a mineral or a vitamin, they actually need a coenzyme, for example, like coenzyme Q10. So what that would look like is, this is the purple is the enzyme. This is a metal molecule of some sort. And then there's a coenzyme that your body would create or get from the diet. And then once that enzyme has both the coenzyme and the metallic factor together, it becomes what's called a holoenzyme. And a holoenzyme is an activated enzyme, one which is doing its job. So in order for your body to really function correctly, you need holoenzymes, or enzymes that are fully activated with both the cofactors, be they vitamins or minerals, as well as any coenzymes your body needs to create. Most often, coenzymes require, surprise, surprise, more amino acids, vitamins, and minerals. Enzymes are the basis of many biological activities. Many, and especially the most severe genetic diseases, exist because your DNA is not correctly coding for or coding at all for a specific enzyme. And this is your DNA making that decision. I will decide the type and amount of enzyme this cell produces. So cell by cell, healthy DNA is going to determine the type of enzymes the cell is producing, if the cell is producing enzymes that are functioning, if that cell is inactivated because of nutritional lacks, your DNA may produce an enzyme that then is still not working. So this is where we begin to really interact with both our life and our diet. There are two main categories of supplemental human enzymes. Digestive enzymes, we actually do make them in our saliva, our stomach, pancreas, and other digestive support organs. They're also found in raw and fermented foods, and they can be grown on a fungal medium as a fermentation byproduct and then carefully dried for human use. And that is, in general, by far and away, the best way to get a really good active enzyme. Metabolic enzymes you create in your salivary glands, in your liver, and other metabolic control organs. Some food-based digestive proteolytic enzymes do offer metabolic and systemic support when you take them orally. So metabolic enzymes, a lot of enzymes on the market are going to be dried and ground up animal glands, animal kidneys, animal liver, other metabolic organs that are dried. I have a real issue with taking supplements of metabolic enzymes. One, there is zero control over the health of that animal. An animal can die of cancer, it can die of a disease. As long as the disease has not penetrated that organ, the organ can be harvested and used for human use. There is no control over that. Two, there are diseases that animals have that are not tested for. And three, this type of enzyme, a metabolic enzyme, they're 100% proteases, so they only work on proteins, and that's fine. That's an important thing to work on. But they also work in a very narrow pH range and also just on a very narrow spectrum of types of proteins. So they're basically not very efficient for humans to use. People do get benefits using them because most people are extremely enzyme deficient. Digestive enzymes are enzymes that are found in food and help you digest your food. Each type of digestive enzyme works specifically on one group, macro group of food. Proteases break down proteins. Amylases break down carbohydrates. Lipases break down fats. And then there are many other types of enzymes which will break down smaller specific foods, like lactase to break down milk, cellulase to break down cellulose. So there's many more enzymes in these three big groups, but all the enzymes fall into one of these three groups. And food enzymes definitely look like this. You buy in it, you get your enzyme, and let's say this is a tiny, tiny piece of cake. It's you've chewed it well, your salivary enzymes have broken it up a little bit. It's in your stomach, the acid is breaking it up a little bit. You eat a food enzyme, that food enzyme clicks perfectly and breaks that carbohydrate into some basic pieces, one of which may contain a vitamin that's now bioavailable. The other may contain a mineral that's now more bioavailable. Enzymes make your nutrients immediately bioavailable or assimilable. They are a phenomenal benefit to your digestive process. The law of adaptive secretion has a lot of importance when you take a digestive enzyme and understand why it's important. This was developed at Northwestern University in 1943. And it states that an organism or a body will manage its enzyme production. The organism's systems will adapt to what you need. So for example, if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of processed sugars, your pancreas will adapt to more and more and more sugar need, to the amount, strength, and type of enzyme it's supposed to create. And that affects the pancreatic size, it affects the pancreatic weight. Unfortunately though, our modern diet is almost completely devoid of food enzymes. And if you're eating lots of processed carbohydrates and sugars, it's devoid of minerals and it's devoid of vitamins. Now you're stressing the system that is trying to produce enough enzymes to break down what you're eating. But overuse and no raw materials creates exhaustion and disease. And in fact, pancreatic exhaustion is one of the biggest issues facing humans today. Pancreatic exhaustion turns into type 2 diabetes. It can turn into pancreatitis. And there is some evidence that it may be involved in the creation of pancreatic cancer. Enzymatically rich foods include breast milk, of course, the first thing we eat, all fresh raw fruits and veggies, live culture fermented foods. In other words, you need a fermented food that has not been heated or sanitized. You want it to be alive still. When it is alive, it is filled with enzymes and probiotic bacteria, both of which are tremendously beneficial for your health. Heating and other food processing can and will kill enzyme activity. Additives, food additives, cooking, heating, all of those reduce or completely negate enzyme activity. The systemic use of enzymes is a way in which you can really maximize your benefits. It's also called enzyme therapy. And this is a well-known therapy that has been used for decades in many countries, including Japan, Germany, and China. It generally refers to the process of taking doses of enzymes, which are often very high in proteases, several times a day on an empty stomach. The enzymes will enter the circulatory system from the gut, affecting and benefiting many organs and body systems. Enzyme therapy also refers to medical treatments where there's specific enzyme replacements are used for treating certain genetic diseases. And I really wanted to put that in there as a clarifier, because if you have a medical professional speaking about enzyme therapy, they're probably talking about a genetic disease. The use of proteolytic, heavily proteolytic enzymes in the type of enzyme therapy where you're eating them several times a day is not as well known by Western medicine. So what can these proteases do? They start regulating your immune system. When your immune system is dysregulated, proteases could go in and break apart clusters of cells that are impeding your immune reactions. They are involved in mucus cleavage. They break mucus apart, which lowers your microbial invasion. They help remodel the matrix of an invasion by a microbe into your cell. They accelerate leukocyte migration so that leukocytes are looking for and killing diseases. And then PAR activation has to do with the inflammatory process. Proteases cut down the inflammatory chemicals that are being formed and break them apart so that the inflammation is reduced. Protease enzymes help to resolve apoptosis, which is the killing of a cell that is no longer healthy. And it helps protect if you have leaky barriers in your epithelial cells, which is both your skin and your gut. And it also helps resolve inflammatory cells. So anoikis is the process of resolving an inflammatory process so that it doesn't just continue on and on as a chronic inflammation, which can lead to disease. It also works on the inflammatory process with something called tight junction degradation, which has to do with how your cells are connected. And then it actually breaks down inflammatory mediators. So cytokines, chemokines, integrins, selectins, it helps your immune system do its job. All of these are different channels by which proteases begin to pretty dramatically affect the way your body is functioning, especially as far as your immune system is concerned. Some of the proteolytic enzyme science shows that it helps with atherosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries, to reduce that, reduce inflammation, shorten the healing time for sports injuries and trauma, to reduce and reverse pancreatic insufficiency, to reduce the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis and bursitis and tendonitis, all three of which, of course, are inflammatory conditions in your joints. And then there is quite a lot of evidence overseas that it improves other types of cancer therapies. So when would you want to avoid having an enzyme therapy supplementation process? Anytime you have a contraindication with a medication. So if you have a medication, you need to talk to your healthcare professional and say, will enzymes affect how this medicine is functioning in my body? You need to find that out. Often you can take an enzyme at a separate time than a medication, but there are some medications you shouldn't have a lot of extra enzymes in your body at all. You do not take them at the same time as antibiotics. You need to wait 2 hours. You do not take them with blood thinners. The reason for this is proteolytic enzymes will help clear thickened blood. Blood is often thickened as a result of chronic inflammation issues that are circulating in your system. The anti-inflammatory process that these proteolytic enzymes can initiate can thin your blood naturally. And if you're taking blood thinners, it could be too much. Many people do not want to mess with their blood thinners. They're very scared, and that is their right. Other people I know prefer to get off blood thinners entirely and choose to use proteolytic therapy in order to make that happen. It's a personal choice, but it's not something we should recommend because it has to be a personal choice. You do not want to take lots of extra enzymes if you have surgery in less than 2 weeks, again, because of the blood thinning. And if you have allergies to pineapples or papayas, you need to double check the enzyme you're taking to make sure it does not have enzymes from these two fruits. Because these two types, the enzymes from pineapples and papayas, bromelain and papain, are very, very powerful anti-inflammatory proteases, and they're found in most proteolytic enzyme formulations. So you may or may not react to the enzyme formulation that would contain those enzymes, but you certainly need to be aware if they're in your enzyme formulation. Perhaps most important of all, when purchasing any supplement, quality control. Make sure that the company you are using has some sort of third-party recognition for the efficacy and safety of the product that's in the capsule. I personally prefer GMP registration for the manufacturing facility, because that means that whatever it says is in the bottle is what's in there, and it's pure with no contaminants.